Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being genuinely well-informed, packed with surprising facts, and just enough, humor to keep you hooked. Today, we're plunging into the fascinating, sometimes really contradictory, evolution of how we drive. Imagine a future where your car literally transforms its shape, or maybe where the very idea of a muscle car is redefined by a whisper instead of a roar.
Yeah, it's a really compelling vision, absolutely. But it's also a pretty complex reality we're seeing unfold. The whole automotive landscape is shifting dramatically, and it's revealing far more intricate forces at play than just, a simple switch from gasoline to electric. We're seeing unexpected challenges for electric vehicles. We're witnessing this quiet but actually significant comeback for sedans, and we're observing the unique demands of a whole new generation of drivers.
Right.
So our mission in this deep dive is really to cut through all that noise, pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge so you can truly understand what's driving the cars of today and tomorrow.
And to help us navigate this really intricate terrain, we've stacked up a truly fascinating array of sources. We've got pretty much everything from detailed analyses of specific EV hurdles and historical car classifications to in-depth studies of generational buying habits and even some pretty bold predictions about future design. So, yeah, let's peel back the layers and see what's truly under the hood.
Okay, so our journey starts with what our sources are calling the EV paradox. And this seems like a particularly sharp challenge for auto brands built on that raw, visceral experience of internal combustion. I mean, think about Dodge. For decades, their whole identity has been just intrinsically linked to the loud, high-octane performance of a V8 engine.
Totally. That Hemi roar.
Exactly. That thunderous roar of a Hemi isn't just an engine sound. For the enthusiasts, it's been the very soul of a Charger or a Challenger. And that's a really powerful emotional connection. And that's precisely where this paradox comes in, creating this fascinating tension, the silent, almost stealthy operation of an electric vehicle, right? Even one that's capable of immense horsepower, it just fundamentally clashes with that established soul. So when Dodge tried to bridge this gap by introducing that synthetic fret-sonic chambered exhaust sound in their new Charger Daytona EV, well, our sources indicate it was pretty much seen by dedicated enthusiasts as like an inauthentic gimmick.
Yeah, it sounds a bit weird.
Right. A forced attempt to replicate something that's inherently tied to combustion rather than, creating a new, compelling electric identity.
It really highlights the depth of that challenge, doesn't it? Because, on paper, the 2024 Dodge Charger Daytona EV looks incredibly impressive. We're talking the RT model delivering 496 horsepower and the Scat Pack pushing out a massive 670 horsepower.
Huge number.
Huge. And it's also packed with features specifically engineered to appeal to that performance crowd. There's a power shot button for an instant 40 horsepower boost, dedicated donut and drift modes for, some tire shredding fun.
And of course, launch control for blistering acceleration. Yet, despite this whole package, our sources consistently point to a poor initial reception, which suggests that, numbers alone aren't enough when you're trying to replace a deeply ingrained emotional experience.
Indeed. And the market's response has been quite telling. Matt McAleer, the CEO of Dodge, actually announced a pretty significant strategic pivot. They're postponing the 2026 Charger Daytona RT EV production.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Instead, the company plans to, quote, lean into the gas-powered six-pack models, which are going to feature twin-turbo Hurricane inline-six engines. So this move isn't just about production delays. It's a clear recognition that a core segment of their audience still craves that traditional internal combustion experience, that mechanical engagement, and yes, that distinctive sound.
That sound, yeah.
And what's maybe even more illustrative is that in one Edmunds U-Drags series test, despite its sheer electric power, the Charger EV was actually, quote, smoked by a smaller, lighter Tesla Model 3 performance.
Really? Smoked? Yeah. And this wasn't just about outright speed. It kind of hints at how different electric architectures deliver performance and how just swapping out a gas engine for an electric one doesn't automatically translate the entire muscle car experience. The weight of the batteries, for instance, that adds a whole dynamic challenge that's just really distinct from a finely tuned V8.
Right. The handling must feel totally different.
Exactly.
So what's the real takeaway here for you, the listener? This isn't just about one car or one brand. The deeper insight seems to be that for these heritage performance brands, the emotional, almost primal connection to sound, feel, and even that mechanical ritual of driving is just as crucial to the brand identity as pure horsepower figures. Electrifying an icon like the Charger without really figuring out how to address this emotional core Well, it's a direct challenge to its very soul. It shows that for a significant chunk of buyers, nostalgia and visceral experience can still trump raw technological specification. Which really begs the question, how do you forge a new kind of emotional bond with a silent electrified beast? That's the paradox automakers are truly wrestling with. Okay, so beyond those brand identity challenges, electric vehicles are running into some very practical real-world hurdles, and these seem to be significant friction points for a lot of potential owners. It's not just about the sticker price or, the environmental benefits. It's about the day-to-day usability and convenience.
Precisely. The core idea here is that these practical, tangible issues you encounter in daily life present pretty significant obstacles for broader EV adoption. One of the most prominent concerns is definitely the charging infrastructure itself, the network of stations. Well, it's still not as widespread, or maybe more importantly, as reliable as traditional gas stations, especially once you get outside major cities.
Yeah, that reliability piece is key.
Definitely. And even when you do find a charger, the time it takes to charge remains a major inconvenience for many. It often demands significantly longer waits than just a quick fuel up. I mean, imagine being on a road trip and having to factor in a 30-45-minute stop every couple hundred miles. That just fundamentally changes the whole travel experience.
I can absolutely imagine the frustration. Our sources painted a really vivid picture with an example from Oak Brook, Illinois, during a brutal cold snap. It was like -9 degrees Fahrenheit, super cold.
Oh.
Yeah. And Tesla owners were reporting cars literally running out of juice while waiting in these long lines for superchargers.
Yeah.
And even worse, some drivers found their vehicles just wouldn't charge at all, left them stranded in freezing temperatures.
That's nightmare fuel for an EV owner.
Totally. That kind of experience can severely sour public perception of EVs, especially when you realize that extreme cold can dramatically impact EV performance. We're talking a significant drop in driving range, anywhere from 10% to maybe 36%, and it substantially slows down the charging speeds too.
Right.
This isn't just a minor thing, it's a fundamental challenge for drivers in colder climates.
And this brings up a really important question. Are drivers actually adequately prepared for these environmental and technological nuances? Many modern EVs are actually programmed with a feature called preconditioning. Basically, it warms the battery up to an optimal temperature if you tell the navigation system you're heading to a charging station. Yeah, it's crucial for maximizing charging speed and efficiency, especially in cold weather. However, this process can take around 30 minutes, and importantly, it uses up some of the vehicle's range to do it. The problem? It seems many new EV owners are just unaware of this crucial step, which leads to those really frustrating experiences you mentioned, like cars not charging. It highlights a pretty significant gap in user education and maybe onboard guidance from the manufacturers.
Yeah, you'd think the car would make that clear. And then there's the cost of charging itself, which, contrary to what a lot of people think, isn't always straightforward or cheaper. While home charging, especially off-peak, is generally much more economical, our sources suggest it can be as little as like 1/3 the price of gasoline for comparable mileage.
Which is great, yeah.
But public DC fast charging, the kind you really rely on for road trips, can often be more expensive than gasoline. It really depends heavily on real-time gas prices, local electricity rates, and whether you're charging during peak or off-peak times.
Lots of variables.
Totally. For instance, 100 miles in a Tesla Model 3 long range costs about $2.73 for home charging, but jumps to $6.75 for off-peak fast charging, and could potentially double during peak rates. Now, compare that to a similar BMW 330i, which might cost maybe $8.90 to $11 in gas for the same 100 miles. Or, in a more extreme case, get this, a GMC Hummer EV pickup covering 100 miles in Hawaii, which has some of the highest electricity rates, costs a hefty $30.36 for home charging.
Wow, $30 at home.
Yeah. Now, okay, it's still less than a Ford F-150 Raptor R gas equivalent at around $0.4092, but it dramatically changes that perception of cheap EV fueling, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The critical takeaway here really is that your decision about getting an EV isn't just about the sticker price or, the allure of being green. It's about evaluating your lifestyle alignment with its charging infrastructure and its seasonal performance quirks. For some people, sure, with reliable home charging and living in temperate climates, it's a seamless and cost-effective fit. Great. But for others, particularly those in colder regions or folks who rely heavily on public fast charging, it can quickly become this hidden cost of inconvenience and unpredictable expense. It just really necessitates a more nuanced understanding of EV ownership than maybe many initial marketing campaigns let on. Hashtag 1.3, the steep hill of EV depreciation.
Okay, another significant factor impacting the total cost of EV ownership and one that often catches new buyers by surprise, is depreciation. Our sources consistently highlight that electric vehicles tend to lose value faster than comparable internal combustion engine vehicles, which can be a real headache and, frankly, a financial hit for owners.
This is a truly critical point, yeah. It impacts the long-term financial viability and, honestly, the peace of mind for a lot of consumers. The core idea is that the rapid technological advancements in the EV space mean newer models quickly make older ones seem less competitive, in terms of range, charging speed, features.
Right, like buying a first-gen smartphone.
Exactly. And furthermore, those lingering fears, even if they're sometimes exaggerated, about battery degradation over time, they contribute significantly to lower resale values. This combination creates a really tangible hesitation for consumers who prioritize long-term financial stability and asset retention in their vehicle purchase. It's that smartphone feeling, a newer, better model is just around the corner, instantly devaluing your current device.
That's a great analogy. Nobody wants to buy a shiny new car only to see its value plummet faster than they can make their first loan payment. But, okay, it's not entirely bad news on the cost front, right? Our sources also mention that, on average, the scheduled maintenance costs for EVs are generally lower than for ICE vehicles.
That's true. That's an important balance.
Yeah, June 2021 U.S. Department of Energy report backs this up. It states that EVs typically cost less than 7 cents per mile for maintenance, compared to about 10 cents per mile for ICE vehicles. I mean, the absence of oil changes, spark plug replacements, a lot of fluid services associated with traditional engines, that significantly reduces routine upkeep.
Definitely less fiddly bits.
Right. Plus, battery warranties are actually quite robust these days. Typically, they offer 8 years or 100,000 miles of coverage and guarantee at least 70% of the original capacity. And Rivian, for example, even extends this to an impressive 8 years or 175,000 miles. That should alleviate some of those battery degradation fears, especially for second owners.
Those maintenance and warranty points are absolutely crucial counterbalances to the depreciation concern. They show that the long-term running costs can definitely be lower. However, that initial hit from depreciation can still be a significant financial shock. Our sources compiled some really striking one-year depreciation rates. Get this. The Mercedes-Benz EQS saw a staggering 47.8% loss in value in just 1 year.
Almost half.
Yeah. The Kia EV6 depreciated by 33.6%, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Volkswagen ID.4 both around 32.9%, and the Ford Mustang Mach-E at 29.8%. These are substantial numbers, really highlighting the volatility in this, pretty nascent used EV market. What's intriguing, though, is that some models do buck this trend. The Tesla Model 3, for instance, demonstrates relatively better value retention, losing about 39.1% over 3 years. That's way better than many luxury EVs lose in just 1 year.
Okay, that's more reasonable.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Chevrolet Bolt also shows pretty strong retention at 28% after 1 year, likely due to its accessible price point and its solid reputation as just a practical entry-level EV.
So consider this for a moment, listener. High depreciation can rapidly lead to negative equity. That means you could owe more on the car loan than the car is actually worth. And that situation makes reselling or trading in your EV much more difficult without taking a significant financial loss. This knowledge becomes absolutely crucial for you to evaluate the true long-term financial commitment of an electric vehicle. It's not just the purchase price. It's that potential rapid devaluation that really needs to be factored into your decision-making. It's easy to think of electric vehicles as this brand new cutting-edge phenomenon, but they actually have a really long and often difficult history. And looking back at these earlier attempts can offer some really valuable and sometimes pretty surprising insights into today's market.
Absolutely. The core idea here is that electric vehicles have this history just fraught with technical, economic, and even political hurdles. And those past experiences offer incredibly valuable, often overlooked lessons for understanding the current market. Early attempts at EVs faced many of the same challenges we're still discussing today: infrastructure, cost, consumer perception.
History repeating itself, huh?
Kind of, yeah. Government mandates, like those from California's Air Resources Board, CARB, they often push for adoption ahead of widespread consumer readiness, and that led to resistance and significant difficulties for manufacturers. And we really can't underestimate the impact of internal company politics and just the sheer high development costs, which plagued so many of these early projects. It really shows that even the most innovative ideas can struggle if the whole ecosystem isn't quite ready for them.
Yeah, the historical examples here get particularly illuminating. Take the Henny Kilowatt from 1959, 1960.
Way back.
Right. An early EV that bravely tried to enter the market, used Renault parts, Had a 72-volt system, a top speed of 60-mile-per, and maybe a 60-mile range. Then, fast forward to 1977, GM experimented with the Electrovette, basically a Chevrolet Chevette converted to electric, but got shelved when the projected gas price increases. The whole reason they built it didn't materialize.
Ouch. Timing is everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A stark reminder of how sensitive new technologies are to external market forces and how long-term visions can just get derailed by short-term economics.
But maybe the most famous and instructive example is the GM EV1 from the 1990s. This car was truly ahead of its time. It featured advanced technologies that are now standard in modern EVs, like regenerative braking. It even had this unique inductive charging paddle system, which, okay, wasn't widely adopted, but it showed a different path for convenience.
There are those paddles.
Yeah, but the development costs were just astronomical, averaging an astonishing $340,000 per car to develop. Even the marginal cost to just build one was around $16,000, $18,000 back in 1992 dollars, which is like maybe $28,000 in 2012 money. And despite all its advanced tech, the concept cars advertised a 120-mile range. Well, it turned out to be an exaggeration. Real-world range was closer to maybe 70 miles without using the heat or AC.
A critical factor for driver comfort, right?
Yeah.
Talk about a reality check. And the political pressure on the EV1 was apparently immense. Our sources describe CEA Arva's tactics as, quote, Bolshevik, mandating 2% zero-emission vehicles by 1998. Which essentially forced manufacturers' hands and created a market that just wasn't quite ready.
Right. Pushing too hard, too fast, maybe.
Yeah. And within GM itself, the project was plagued by internal conflicts. There was this costly mandate for an all-aluminum body, despite safety concerns, and intense turf wars between divisions over crucial electronic components like inverters, which hindered seamless integration. Ultimately, only about 800 EV1s were ever leased, primarily in California and Arizona. And then, in a move that still sparks outrage today, GM controversially refused to sell them to the passionate leaseholders who loved them.
They loved those cars.
They did. But GM chose instead to crush most of the vehicles. Led to widespread public outcry, a famous documentary film. It remains this huge cautionary tale about corporate control versus consumer demand.
And that saga isn't even the complete picture of early electric innovation. There was the AC Propulsion Zero, a high-performance electric sports car from 1997. It boasted 201 horsepower and a 0-60 sprint in just 3.7 seconds with its advanced lithium-ion batteries. And it directly inspired Tesla's co-founders. It showed that electric performance could actually be exhilarating.
Ah, the precursor to Tesla.
Pretty much. This, of course, led to the Tesla Roadster in 2008, which was one of the first production cars to successfully use lithium-ion batteries and achieve a truly practical, game-changing 200-mile driving range. It proved the viability of long-distance electric travel was possible.
So the critical insight here, it seems, is that history really shows us that overcoming infrastructure, cost, and consumer perception challenges is a long game. It takes time. The struggles we're observing today with EV adoption, range anxiety, charging issues, initial cost, they're not entirely new phenomena. They're echoes of past innovations and the formidable hurdles encountered along the way. This historical context provides invaluable perspective, reminding us that progress isn't always a straight line forward, but often a cyclical journey of trial, error, and eventually breakthrough. It's a powerful lesson in patience and perseverance for any new technology, really.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit. For a significant period, it really felt like the automotive world was almost exclusively focused on SUVs, right? There's been this persistent, almost mournful narrative about the death of the sedan. So what exactly fueled this massive shift? Why did SUVs become so incredibly dominant?
Yeah, it's a great question. A key insight from our sources reveals that the core reason behind the SUV's dominance in recent decades really boils down to this powerful combination of perceived versatility and enhanced utility. SUVs and crossovers just surged in popularity because they offered this compelling suite of features that consumers increasingly prioritized. Things like larger, more adaptable interiors, often with comfortable seating for 7 or 8 passengers thanks to optional third rows.
Right, the third row was huge. Huge and highly flexible cargo space with foldable seats. For many families and active individuals, this simply translated to more capability for daily life, weekend adventures, carpooling, you name it.
And I vividly remember that shift, where seemingly everyone suddenly wanted that commanding driving position. It wasn't just about seeing more of the road. It was often equated with a heightened sense of control and, perceived safety, giving drivers that higher vantage point over surrounding traffic.
Yeah, that feeling of being above it all.
Exactly. And for those who harbored dreams of adventure, even if it was just a trip to the local ski hill. The perceived off-road capability, often bolstered by available all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive options, was a huge psychological draw. It suggested ruggedness and freedom, even if most never left the pavement. This blend of practicality and aspiration just proved incredibly potent.
While those appeals are undeniably strong and, frankly, deeply ingrained in modern consumer preferences, they don't come without trade-offs. SUVs generally command higher upfront purchase prices. They typically offer lower fuel efficiency, especially the really large models, and they can often incur higher insurance premiums compared to sedans.
Hidden costs, yeah.
Definitely. Despite these financial considerations, though, it's remarkable how consistent the market's preference has been. Crossovers like the Toyota RAV4, the Honda CR-V, Tesla Model Y, Nissan Rogue, they have consistently ranked among the top sellers year after year. It powerfully illustrates the consumer's strong and enduring preference for these attributes, even if it means absorbing those higher costs.
So, understanding the why behind SUV popularity helps contextualize the current market dynamics for you, the listener. It explains why so many brands pivoted so heavily into SUVs. However, it also critically highlights those potential hidden costs, from fuel to insurance, that you might not immediately consider when you're drawn to their perceived benefits. It's a trade-off many buyers have been willing to make, often unconsciously, but one that seems to be getting more scrutinized now as economic pressures maybe start to mount. Hashtag 2.2, the unexpected comeback of the sedan. Now, despite all that talk about the SUV's seemingly unstoppable reign, our sources are pointing to something genuinely intriguing. This unexpected and rather quiet comeback of the sedan. It suggests that the narrative of its death was perhaps greatly exaggerated.
You're absolutely right. That death of the sedan narrative is just far too simplistic, and it overlooks a significant market adaptation that's been happening. While SUVs undeniably capture a massive share of the automotive market, sedans haven't simply faded away. They've been diligently evolving and refining their value proposition. Today, they offer this really compelling blend of affordability, impressive efficiency, and advanced features that are increasingly appealing to a new generation of buyers, and also to those who just prefer a more traditional, maybe more engaging driving experience. It's less of a resurrection and more of a, I guess, strategic reemergence.
And affordability is a huge part of that renewed appeal, isn't it? Especially in today's more fiscally conscious climate. Sedans typically boast lower upfront costs, significantly better average fuel efficiency. I mean, we're often talking between 25, 35 miles per gallon average for gasoline models.
Big difference sometimes.
Yeah, and generally lower insurance premiums. Just look at the perennial top seller lists. The Toyota Camry, the Corolla, the Honda Civic, they remain consistently strong performers. Base prices often comfortably under $30,000, and the Corolla sometimes dipping closer to the $20,000 mark.
Yeah.
I mean, that represents a serious, undeniable value proposition that's just hard for many consumers to ignore right now.
And a key point revealed by our sources is how that efficiency actually extends beyond just the initial purchase and fuel costs. Because they were generally smaller and lighter than their SUV counterparts, sedans inherently offer superior fuel economy. For example, a Toyota Camry AWD hybrid achieves an impressive 51 city, 49 highway, 50 combined MPG. Now compare that to a Toyota RAV4 AWD hybrid, which comes in at 41 city, 38 highway, 39 combined.
That's a noticeable gap.
It really is. Moreover, their lighter weight and lower center of gravity also translate to less wear and tear on crucial components like tires, brakes, and suspension over the vehicle's lifespan. That further reduces long-term ownership costs. It's an often overlooked detail, but it significantly contributes to their overall economic advantage.
And beyond the practical numbers, there's the undeniable driving experience itself, right? Sedans, just by virtue of their lower center of gravity, inherently provide more nimble handling, more precise steering, and a smoother, often more engaging and just plain fun to drive experience. They connect you more intimately to the road.
Yeah, they handle better, generally.
They really do. They're also typically easier to maneuver and park in increasingly congested urban environments, a huge plus for city dwellers. And importantly, today's sedans are far from no frills. They are now packed with ADS, that's advanced driver assistance systems, cutting-edge infotainment, premium interior materials, and increasingly stylish, sporty designs that really challenge that old perception of sedans as merely utilitarian boxes.
This really highlights an important question, though. Why this comeback now? Well, their inherent efficiency also makes them an ideal platform for both hybrid and fully electric powertrains. This provides environmentally conscious and tech-savvy consumers with compelling options that don't necessarily compromise on range or performance, especially compared to heavier EVs. We're also observing a notable demographic shift. Young professionals, empty nesters, urban dwellers who don't necessarily need the cavernous space of an SUV. They're increasingly finding sedans to be a more practical, nimble, and financially sensible solution for their daily commutes and personal travel needs. It's kind of a return to form for many, prioritizing efficiency and driving dynamics again.
So if you're considering a new vehicle, the renewed value proposition of sedans offers a strong, really compelling alternative to the dominant SUV market. It's absolutely worth a serious look, especially if budget, superior fuel efficiency, and a more engaging driving experience are high in your priority list. The sedan is no longer just a sensible choice. It's often a stylish, smart, and sometimes more enjoyable one too. Let's turn our attention now to another significant force profoundly shaping the automotive world, Generation Z. This first truly digital native generation. They aren't just another demographic. They seem to be genuinely reshaping automotive preferences with their laser focus on seamless technology and really pragmatic, realistic choices.
That's a crucial observation, yeah. Gen Z, generally defined as those born between roughly 1995 and 2012, they're not just entering the market, they're projected to become the most powerful consumer force, actually surpassing baby boomers by 2029.
Wow, that's soon.
Yeah. Our sources highlight that this generation is experiencing what's termed delayed milestones. Things like achieving financial independence, buying a home, getting married. They're happening later for them compared to previous generations. These unique life circumstances, combined with their inherent digital fluency and a world just shaped by information overload, they drive very distinct preferences when it comes to vehicles. Fundamentally different from their parents or even older millennials.
And they're getting behind the wheel earlier too, which is interesting. A striking 76% of Gen Z purchased their first vehicle before turning 21. That significantly outpaces millennials, where only 56% did so.
Getting that freedom earlier.
Yeah. And for this generation, connectivity isn't just a bonus, it's an absolute deal breaker. It's the undisputed king. Features like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, intuitive in-car payment systems, advanced driver assistance systems, ADAS, these are non-negotiable must-haves. They just expect seamless technology integration in literally all aspects of their lives, and that expectation extends naturally to their cars. Furthermore, they largely prefer to conduct most of the buying process, online research, financing, before ever even stepping foot in a dealership.
And a key insight from our sources is their profound focus on practicality and safety. Safety is paramount for Gen Z, even more so than for boomers and millennials. They're not just looking at crash test ratings. They want comprehensive active safety features that help prevent accidents in the first place. Crucially, they value how well a car fits their daily routines and supports their life, basically, as a functional tool over using it as some kind of status symbol.
Less about the badge, more about the function.
Exactly. This pragmatic approach translates directly into cost sensitivity. Their key decision factors are heavily weighted toward fuel efficiency, whether it's EV, hybrid, or gas. A robust balance of cost versus desired features, flexible financing options, and manageable maintenance costs. They're doing their homework, they're budget conscious.
It's also incredibly interesting to note the nuance in their sustainability values. While Gen Z certainly cares about social and environmental impact, sustainability isn't always the main or sole driver in their car buying decisions. Two-thirds of Gen Z, for example, express a preference for hybrid options, which indicates a strong inclination towards practicality and proven efficiency over maybe a pure electric commitment in many cases, especially given the current charging infrastructure challenges we talked about earlier.
Right. The practical choice often wins.
Yeah. They're also significantly less loyal to specific brands than previous generations were. They prioritize reliability, features, and overall value above all else, which explains why brands like Honda, Toyota, and Hyundai consistently prove popular among them. They seem to be brand-agnostic problem solvers.
And if we connect this to the broader picture of Gen Z's characteristics, our sources describe them as practical, sensible, and realistic. They seek immersive experiences, not just passive consumption, and they value global identities and diverse perspectives. In the workplace, they tend to prefer frequent face-to-face feedback, they're natural team players, and demonstrate high adaptability. These overarching traits translate directly into a clear demand for vehicles that are adaptable, seamlessly tech-integrated, and highly practical, aligning perfectly with their broader life values and aspirations. They want tools that enhance their lives, not just objects that define their status.
So whether you're a Gen Z driver yourself, maybe a parent of one, or just curious about the future of the automotive industry, Understanding these evolving preferences reveals precisely where the market is headed. Expect more vehicles that serve as highly connected, functional, flexible tools seamlessly integrated into daily life rather than just aspirational objects. The car is really becoming an extension of the digital ecosystem, tailored to a very pragmatic generation. To truly understand where we're going with automotive design and consumer preferences, sometimes it pays to take a fascinating detour into where we've been. Let's explore a past, yet incredibly influential automotive classification, the personal luxury car. Remember those?
Oh yeah, the PLC. What's truly fascinating here is how revisiting these past automotive trends can provide invaluable context and even some really striking parallels for understanding current market dynamics. The personal luxury car, or PLC, segment emerged as this distinct category, meticulously engineered to combine sportiness with unparalleled comfort for the time. These weren't necessarily high-performance machines in the purest sense, but rather mass-market coupes that emphatically prioritize style, prestige, and a luxurious driving experience, primarily for the driver and maybe one passenger.
Right, not really family haulers.
Exactly, not raw, track-focused performance or family utility. And a key design approach that made them economically viable was the clever use of shared platforms. That managed costs while still allowing for the creation of a highly distinctive and appealing vehicle that projected an image of affluence and individuality. Smart business.
Our sources pinpoint the true origin of this segment to 1958 with the second-generation Ford Thunderbird, the Squarebird.
That's the one.
It's a pivotal moment because by changing from a two-seater to a four-seater, its sales actually increased by a remarkable 50%, decisively establishing it as the first volume personal luxury car. These cars typically took the form of two-door hardtops, though a few four-door variants existed later on. And they were unequivocally designed to make an impression, to turn heads. The target demographic was often males in their 40s, looking for that blend of success and personal indulgence. Though certain models, like the T-Bird and the very sophisticated Buick Riviera, also consciously targeted women, emphasizing style and comfort.
And these PLCs weren't just about flash. They came with a certain elevated level of standard luxury for the era. Power steering, robust V8 engines, power brakes, integrated radios, plush bucket seats, rich carpeting. These were often included as baseline features, setting them apart from more basic models. Crucially, the option lists were famously extensive, allowing for significant further customization and personalization. Buyers could add amenities like power sunroofs, convertible tops, sumptuously upholstered leather seats, and even integrated 8-track or cassette tape players.
High-tech back then.
Right, transforming their vehicle into a truly bespoke statement of personal taste and technological indulgence.
The iconic examples really bring this era to vivid life. The 1963 Buick Riviera, for instance, was revered for its incredibly striking, almost European-inspired styling. Just beautiful.
Gorgeous car.
Then came the 1970 Chevrolet Monte Carlo, a true market phenomenon. It offered a potent 350 cubic inch V8 engine and power front disc brakes for a highly competitive base price of just $3,123. That was notably less than an Impala Sport Coupe and a full $800 less than a Pontiac Grand Prix, positioning it perfectly as a value-priced personal luxury option. And this shrewd pricing strategy paid off handsomely. The Monte Carlo sold over 130,000 units in its first year alone.
Huge success, and the innovation continued. The 1966 Oldsmobile Toronado was significant not just for its bold design, but as the first front-wheel drive personal luxury car. A groundbreaking engineering feat that actually provided the fundamental platform for the 1967 Cadillac Eldorado to make a similar successful shift to front-wheel drive.
I didn't know that connection.
Yeah. Then there's the legendary Lincoln Continental Mark series, particularly the Mark III, IV, and V, instantly recognizable for their Rolls-Royce-inspired grilles and really formal, stately styling. These cars famously featured those opera windows in the C-pillar and distinctive concealed headlamps, adding to their air of exclusivity. The Mark V, get this, despite its somewhat anemic 179 horsepower V8 engine and massive 230.3-inch length.
Huge car.
Enormous. It was ironically the most popular Mark ever produced, selling a staggering 228,862 units. And these neoclassical gimmicks, like the upright grilles and those opera windows, actually influenced a whole wave of American automotive styling well into the 1980s.
The surprising aspect here, and maybe not so surprising when you think about it, is the clear connection to modern vehicles. Our sources draw striking parallels between the look-at-me grandiosity, the often gaudy grilles, the perceived needless bulk, and the inherently fuel-sucking engines of these past PLCs, and the SUV craze that exploded some 25 years later.
It's a very similar vibe, isn't it?
Totally.
It strongly suggests a fascinating cyclical nature to consumer desire for perceived prestige, commanding size, and distinctive, often ostentatious styling in their vehicles. So for you, the listener, this historical context reveals how manufacturers have always adeptly adapted to consumer desires for comfort, status, and distinctive style, often through clever platform sharing and shrewd marketing lessons that remain incredibly relevant and continue to shape today's dynamic market shifts. The desire for a vehicle that says something about you, whether it's a 70s Monte Carlo or a modern luxury SUV, seems to be a constant thread. Okay, let's shift gears now, maybe literally, and talk about the pure exhilaration of driving. Traditionally, there's been a pretty clear, almost sacred distinction between a pure sports car built solely for raw speed and agile handling and a Grand Tourer, or GT, designed for comfortable, long-distance travel. But our sources suggest that with modern automotive engineering, these lines are becoming increasingly nuanced, almost blending together in some cases.
Yeah, what's particularly fascinating here is precisely how modern engineering is creating vehicles that really seem to offer the best of both worlds, challenging those rigid old categories. A true sports car, like say a Ford Mustang, fundamentally prioritizes raw performance, immediate response, razor-sharp handling, often at the expense of long-distance comfort, right?
Stiff suspension, loud.
Exactly. A Grand Tourer, on the other hand, like a sophisticated Ferrari 296 GTB plug-in hybrid, is engineered to offer a more holistic blend. Potent performance, sure, but also luxurious comfort and refined amenities, specifically designed for effortlessly covering long distances with ease and style. Historically, American manufacturers often focus more on sheer muscle and straight-line speed, but now we're seeing them thoughtfully incorporate more GT characteristics, effectively blurring these traditional lines through advanced tech and maybe a broader understanding of what drivers want.
Exactly. Take the Dodge Challenger, for instance. Our sources argue that by its very nature, it can almost be considered a GT car. While it certainly embodies the muscle car aesthetic with its aggressive styling and powerful engine options, its overall proportions, its undeniably comfortable ride quality, especially compared to some more hardcore sports cars, and its primary focus on brutal straight-line acceleration rather than track day lap times.
Yeah, it's not really a corner carver by design.
Right. It really positions it as an American-style GT. It unapologetically prioritizes brute force, a commanding presence, and long-haul comfort in a way that's distinctly American, making it more than just a drag strip warrior.
Then you have something like the Chevrolet Corvette, specifically thinking about the C7 Z06 generation. Fundamentally, it's a sports car, no question, but it's one that can adeptly adopt GT manners. While it is inherently a two-seat, handling-focused performance machine, the availability of options like the 3LT trim added a surprising level of luxury and convenience. We're talking heated and ventilated seats, a premium Bose audio system, a comprehensive, intuitive infotainment suite, things you want on a long trip.
Nice touches, yeah.
And most importantly, the optional magnetic ride control suspension, with its specially engineered touring mode, could literally transform the car's demeanor. It offered a surprisingly comfortable and compliant ride for long road trips. This effectively created a genuine dual personality for the Corvette. However, its inherently small two-seat cabin and its overarching track-focused design still firmly root it in the sports car category, even with its newfound comfort. It's more like a sports car that allows for GT-like travel rather than being a GT car first and foremost.
Right, the core DNA is still sports car. So what might this mean for you, the listener? This evolution in design and engineering implies that you no longer necessarily have to make that stark choice between exhilarating, unadulterated performance and comfortable, effortless travel. Modern vehicles are being engineered with the intelligence and adaptability to offer a really compelling blend of both. This gives you significantly more options to find a car that fits your every mood and need, whether it's a spirited Sunday afternoon drive on winding back roads or maybe a cross-country adventure with a surprising degree of comfort and refinement. The compromises of the past seem to be slowly fading away. Okay, now, here's an intriguing and rather unexpected physiological consequence of new EV technology that's starting to get some significant attention. Car sickness. It's an unforeseen impact that many people, myself included, likely never even considered. Who would have thought?
Indeed. It's a subtle but potentially important detail. A growing number of studies and also anecdotal reports suggest that both passengers and even some drivers in electric vehicles may experience higher instances of car sickness compared to traditional gasoline or diesel cars. This raises an important question for future vehicle design and overall passenger comfort, especially as EVs become more and more ubiquitous. It's a challenge that designers maybe didn't anticipate but now must start to address.
So what exactly is causing this new wave of motion sickness? Our sources seem to attribute it primarily to the widespread use of regenerative braking technology. Regenerative braking, for those unfamiliar, is that highly efficient system that converts the car's kinetic energy back into electricity when you lift off the accelerator or press the brake pedal, storing it back in the battery. Great for efficiency.
Fantastic for range.
But the way it slows the car down seems to be the key factor here, specifically what's described as low-frequency deceleration.
Right. And to elaborate on that crucial point, low-frequency deceleration basically means the vehicle slows down in a more gradual, steady, and often prolonged manner over a relatively longer period. It's different than the rapid, distinct pulses or sharper, more abrupt stops you typically get in a traditional internal combustion engine car, where the engine braking and the friction brakes operate differently.
More variability in a gas car, maybe.
Yeah, maybe less smooth. This specific, often smoother but maybe less predictable, type of deceleration in EVs has been consistently associated with higher levels of motion sickness. It seems to create this disorienting disconnect between what your inner ear is sensing, the motion, and what your eyes are perceiving. It's a sensory mismatch that can really catch people off guard.
Huh. So for you, the listener, as EVs become increasingly common on our roads, understanding these subtle yet impactful physiological effects is important. Not just for ensuring passenger comfort, but also for informing future design considerations for automakers. It's a factor that designers and engineers are now actively researching and having to take into account. Exploring ways to potentially smooth out or maybe offer adjustable levels of regenerative braking to ensure a pleasant and comfortable experience for everyone inside the vehicle, not just the driver who's focused on the road ahead. Okay, looking further down the road now, perhaps even just a few years, the future of car design is said to be radically reshaped by the continued accelerating advancement of EV technology and, of course, the inevitable rise of autonomous driving. It's not just about what's next. It's about what becomes possible when those fundamental constraints are removed.
It truly feels like it will be a transformative era. The core idea is that the fundamental absence of traditional combustion engines, no bulky engine block, no transmission tunnel running down the middle, no exhaust system underneath, combined with the rise of autonomous capabilities, effectively frees designers from many, if not all, of the conventional packaging and aesthetic constraints that have defined vehicle architecture for over a century.
Wow. Yeah.
This liberation just opens the door to incredibly innovative, even revolutionary approaches in vehicle form, function, interior space, and even personalization.
Yeah.
It allows a complete reimagining of what a car can actually be.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting with some truly visionary concepts for the future.
Mm.
First, imagine modular vehicle design. We're talking about a standardized electric skateboard chassis housing the batteries, motors, computational power, onto which various interchangeable shells or body types can be mounted for different needs.
Like Lego bricks for cars.
Kind of. Envision a sleek commuter sedan body during the work week, then maybe effortlessly swapping it out for a compact mini SUV shell for a rugged weekend getaway, or even a specialized cargo pod for moving stuff. This modularity is already kind of a trend in manufacturing with shared platforms, but the vision here extends it right to the consumer level. Now, the engineering challenges are immense, obviously. You need robust docking mechanisms, secure, weather-sealed connections, integrated electronics, safety certifications for each body.
Huge hurdles, yeah.
But the potential business models are fascinating. Maybe subscription services for body swaps, or a fleet of specialized pods you rent on demand. And autonomous driving makes this even more relevant. It transforms the interior into that highly adaptable third space, an office, a lounge, a bedroom, a gaming hub, with easily swappable, reconfigurable components to suit your activity, making the vehicle far more than just transportation.
That's a profound shift indeed. Secondly, and maybe more immediately, we'll see a strong, almost universally applied push towards aerodynamic and sleek designs. Because EVs don't need those large grills for engine cooling like ICE vehicles do, designers are afforded the freedom to create ultra-streamlined, smooth forms. Expect vehicles with virtually flat underbodies to reduce turbulence, flush door handles that retract when not in use, seamless body surfaces, all meticulously sculpted to maximize range by minimizing aerodynamic drag.
Form follows function, literally.
Exactly. The face of the car will radically change. Traditional grills will diminish or disappear entirely. Lighting will become the new face, with integrated LED strips, animated light sequences, illuminated badges providing brand identity. The Lucid Air, with its incredibly low drag coefficient, and even the radical Tesla Cybertruck with its sharp angular efficiency. There are already powerful examples of this trend, showing how form follows electric function. The tension between pure aesthetics and maximum efficiency will really continue to drive innovation.
And maybe, just maybe, in response to some of the backlash against what some perceive as uniform, sort of jelly bean EV designs, our sources suggest there could be a counter-movement towards customization and a rejection of uniformity.
A bit more personality.
Yeah, exactly. This might manifest as a return to unique, almost whimsical exterior features. Think about how pop-up headlights added character to sports cars of the past, or the dramatic flair of unconventional door mechanisms like gull-wing or scissor doors that once signified exotic cars. Brands will seek new ways to differentiate themselves aesthetically, moving beyond just subtle variations in light signatures. Interiors, in particular, will become canvases for extreme personalization, offering infinitely adjustable seating configurations, sophisticated mood lighting systems that adapt to driver preference, and highly configurable digital displays that morph to suit individual needs. Truly making the car an extension of your personal style and preferences, like a private oasis.
Absolutely. But the fourth trend focuses on the accelerating growth of microcars. This is a rapidly expanding market valued at nearly $10 billion in 2023 and projected to hit $20 billion by 2034.
Doubling.
Yeah. These are small, incredibly fuel-efficient vehicles specifically tailored for dense urban mobility. Electric microcars are particularly appealing due to their exceptionally lower operating costs, minimal environmental footprint, and compact dimensions. Makes them ideal for navigating congested city streets and finding parking in tight spaces. They have immense potential for commercial use too, like last-mile delivery services, and for seamless integration into shared mobility services like car sharing and ride-hailing fleets. Offering practical, agile, sustainable solutions to urban transportation challenges. Think about vehicles like the tiny Citroën Ami or the upcoming Microlino. They're redefining urban personal transport.
Very cool. And finally, even as we look to these radical new forms, there's also still hybrid innovation evolving. Our sources point to the 2025 Honda Prelude, which is re-emerging not as a pure performance icon, but as a 200-horsepower hybrid hatchback. What's intriguing is that this hybrid is apparently designed to fake shifts, emulating the tactile experience of a traditional geared transmission.
Interesting. Trying to keep that feel.
Yeah. It demonstrates how even deeply entrenched sporting traditions in the feel of driving can adapt to new electrified powertrains. It's a nod to nostalgia while embracing efficiency, showing that the future isn't just about entirely new concepts, but also about cleverly blending the familiar with the innovative.
So for you, the listener, these converging trends really paint a picture of a future where vehicles are far more adaptable, deeply personal, remarkably efficient, and potentially blur those traditional lines between simple transportation and a fully integrated living or working space. It's a very exciting and maybe, a little disorienting vision for what's to come, fundamentally changing our relationship with the automobile. #tag outro.
Wow, what an expansive journey we've taken today. We've truly peeled back the layers, haven't we? Unpacking the significant challenges and those surprising historical parallels facing electric vehicles, observed the dynamic and often unexpected comeback of the sedan, delved into the distinct preferences and pragmatism of Generation Z drivers, and even charted the course for the radical future of automotive design, from modular cars that promise to literally transform to the subtle physiological impacts of things like regenerative braking.
Yeah, it's abundantly clear that the automotive world is in this fascinating and really dynamic state of flux. It's being powerfully driven by relentless technological innovation, evolving economic realities, and increasingly diverse consumer desires. This deep dive has revealed just how intricately interconnected all these different facets of the industry truly are, shaping not just our cars, but our very lifestyles in profound ways.
So we're genuinely curious, what aspect of this deep dive most resonated with you? Did any of these insights maybe change your perspective on your next vehicle choice or perhaps even the car you drive right now? Something to think about.
Definitely. And here's maybe a provocative thought for you to mull over as you navigate the roads ahead. As our cars become ever more intelligent, connected, and adaptable, even potentially acting as these third spaces in our lives, Will the profound emotional connection we have to driving, that visceral thrill of the roar, the physical feel of the road, the sheer freedom of the open highway, will that continue to evolve and find new forms? Or will some of those deeply cherished experiences remain inherently tied to the past, creating this fascinating, enduring tension between nostalgia and inevitable progress?
It's a great question. One that will undoubtedly continue to shape the very definition of driving and the roads of tomorrow. That's all for this deep dive. We hope you feel a little more well-informed and perhaps a little more excited about what's around the corner. We'll catch you on the next one.